Welcome to our That Place and Praise. If you're new to this channel, thanks for dropping in. My name is Ginger and this is the acrylic painting I made. In this video, I'll show you how I created this highly textured, whimsical art. I like playing around with my paint and I like experimenting, and I'm not afraid to mix and match paint colors. The scene I'll show you was a commissioned piece on a 3 feet by 2 feet canvas. It's really huge and it took me a week to complete, and most days I spent 14 straight hours to paint. But since I can't bore you with the video that long, I had to time lapse this and focus on the highlights. People have asked me how I create my paintings. I already put a video before that showed my techniques in building texture, and you can click the link to that video on the upper right hand side of the screen, or you can check out the description box below. But I think it bears repeating how texture can be built, not just by using layered brush strokes, but by using other tools too, and that's what I'll show you in this video. You'll see me use paint scrapers and palette knives with either straight or serrated edge. I'll use a natural sea sponge also and some bubble wrap just to demonstrate that you can pick up any household item and use it to paint. I have painting habits, which many schooled artists may criticize as poor technique. But it's the style I'm comfortable with. If you want to try it, go ahead and experiment. Painting habit number 1 is that I don't wash my brushes. At least not as often as others do. Most artists load up their bristles with one paint color, then they wash their brush before loading up with a different color. In my case, I don't do that. I load as many colors as I want in my bristles without washing in between, and that creates many happy accidents for me. It creates color mixtures in my bristles and variegated streaks on my canvas, and that's what adds texture and very interesting tones in a painting. When the bristles start to produce a muddy mess, that's when I wipe my brush on any part of the canvas. You'll see me do that here occasionally. I scrub my brush or palette knife on a random section of the canvas, which I call my scratch post. Those scratches in itself becomes a layered texture of some sort, and it's like an underpainting already. Once I've scratched out all the unwanted paints in my brushes, that's when I wash it thoroughly in a tub of water, and then I start painting all over again. That is my painting habit, and I call it painting habit number 1. Now, my painting habit number 2 is that I don't blend colors on a palette. Like most artists, for instance, if they want a pastel shade of blue, they'll mix some titanium white with, say, a phthalocyanin blue, and they mix both colors to a well-blended consistency, so they end up with only one solid pastel blue color. But for me, I don't do that. What I do is I dip my brush on a white, then I dip on a blue. So then I have 2 distinct colors sitting on my bristles. And when I wipe the brush on the canvas, I then create different streaks. Some of the colors stand alone, or so I have a solid white on one side and a solid blue on the other. At the same time, as I move my brush, some of the paints blend together on the canvas. So then I get that pale blue streak as well. As I'm scrubbing my brush on the canvas, some paints mix completely, others don't, and because of these inconsistencies, I've succeeded in creating different textures on my painting. It seems like a random or lazy technique, but you'll see from the results of my painting that this style creates depth and many interesting tones in the art. So that's my painting habit number 2. I don't mix paints. Well, at least 80% of the time I don't. But there are some occasions when I do need to blend colors to create that perfect hue, that specific color. So yeah, sometimes I still do some mixing. Okay, so painting habit number 3, I sometimes turn my canvas around. Sometimes I rotate my canvas 90 degrees at a time, or sometimes I turn it a complete 180 degrees. So if you see a footage in this video where the scene I'm painting is suddenly upside down, don't think there's something wrong with your computer screen. It's just me. Occasionally, rotating a canvas helps me paint some hard to reach parts. It also gives me a different perspective. Turning a canvas helps me see some of my mistakes, like for example, when the shadows and light sources are inconsistent, or if there are some portions of the canvas where the gesso is still showing through because I wasn't able to cover them fully with enough paints. Moving the canvas can help me spot check those things. And talking about spot checking, there's one painting advice I want to share. Many people can paint. In fact, anyone can make an attempt to paint and somehow manage to come up with an art piece. But what separates you from the rest depends on the amount of attention you put on the details. Pay attention to the details. It's what spells the difference between a sloppy, amateurish painting and a more professional painting. Don't be too quick to finish off a painting. Just because the entire canvas is already covered in paint, that doesn't mean you're done. So pay close attention to every single edge of your painting subject, like the edges of the buildings or the edges of the trees. Like, are there paint colors that sort of slipped through the boundaries? Like, for instance, you have a solid blue in one section, then there's a random spot of red on the edge because your hand kind of trembled and the brush stroke slipped accidentally. Now, don't stop there. Go ahead and clean that up. If that's not the look you're aiming for, like if you didn't intend to make it into an impressionistic piece, then by all means, top up that red splotch and cover up that mistake and put some blue there, and that will help make your edges really crisp. This process is this editing, touching up and looking at details. This is similar to like when you edit your writing. When you write stories, you go over your draft, right? And you edit your grammar and punctuation. Or when you do photography, you run your pictures through a photo editing software and you adjust your filters, your levels, curves, and saturation. Now, when you make a painting, it's sort of the same thing. You sort of do the same thing. You go over the piece with eagle eyes and check your brush strokes, you check your colors, your paint coverage, your composition, your lights, your shadows, everything. You check everything and touch them up if you need to. Going over the details is time consuming. It's true. It can really tire you. But for this canvas, like what I just did, this canvas, the entire process took me an additional 3 days. But it's well worth it. And it's gratifying when my clients tell me they're happy with the results. Okay, friends, I hope you learned a tip or two from this painting session. This street scene may be unfamiliar to you, but these are iconic symbols from Manila. This is Baclaran Church, which is a well-known and old cathedral. And this is another university, a jeepney, a tricycle, which are modes of transportation in the Philippines. So this whole street scene was requested of me from by a client. And I hope, I heard she likes it, so I'm happy about that. All right. This is again Ginger from Art at Place and Praise. Thank you for joining me in this video. Thank you for supporting this channel, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.